And welcome back, everybody, to Daily Dirty Podcast. Hope everybody's doing well. So it's been a minute. It's going to take me a minute to get back into the groove of things. So, still a slight update of what's going on here. Get my mic set up here. For some reason, it's not really. Oh, that's going down. It's supposed to be going up. There we go. All right. Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Scooch in a little bit closer and knock my vape down. Anyway, so this is going to be just a simple podcast. I haven't done one in a while, so I wanted to get back into the groove of things, some updates, and I'm kind of sorely regretting that incident. Give me a headache. Anywho, so today's podcast is basically going to be how not to be successful doing podcasts and YouTubes. I mean, there's just a bunch of things I kind of tried my hand at. And like I've always said before, it's not all about getting, a bunch of folks to watch and all that other kind of stuff. It's just mainly kind of that mental therapy for me to kind of keep positivity in my life. And I need to adjust this mic yet again. There we go. So, wrote a couple books, Adventures of the Unknown, and put them up on Amazon Kindle, and there's another one called Digital or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think I got it up here. Let me see if I can remember the name of it. Draft to Digital. So I use ChatGPT to kind of help out with the book. Now, a lot of people might think, oh, well, that's kind of cheating. No. If you know how to do it, you basically are putting in your ideas and it's making it a little bit more dramatic and giving it the emotion and a little bit more detail than, but you're basically doing most of the work. You're basically guiding the ChatGPT to, write the book for you. I mean, you still got to go in and fix a lot of things. And I do mine through Word, and you can kind of set up as a book format, which I had to learn. The first book was just horrible. I mean, not the story itself, but making the book and setting up the fonts and doing everything. That stuff is just circling around my dome. So it was a learning curve on the first one. And the second one, I got a lot better at it. I really think the hardest part, honestly, is doing your book covers, because you have to have it set up a certain way. And I use Canva, the free version. I got a paid version that's my sister-in-law that let me do it, but it just seems like it's just got too many bells and whistles in it. So it's just kind of overbearing for me. I like some simplicity stuff. But yeah, so did 2 books. A long time ago, I lived with a buddy of mine and his mom, and I said one day I'm going to do these books. I didn't say it was going to be, I guess I did say it was going to be books, but recorded. It was Adventures of the Unknown and had these characters and all this kind of stuff. So as you get older, those things kind of change about your characters and everything. And so, yeah, I got 2 books down. They're on Amazon Kindle. And the one thing that just is hard, if any of you are deciding to kind of do that, I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's, I did all this for free. All that smoke and shit. I did all this for free. Only thing it cost me is time. And the story is really good. Um, my imagination in that area is pretty good. But if you want to do an audio book, that's where it kind of gets different. Let me turn this fan on, everybody. Hang on a second. Sorry about that. So, yeah, the story's pretty good. And a lot of people want to do audio books. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can do that, but all of it pretty much, the only one that doesn't cost money is if you do it yourself. And the thing is with Amazon, they got certain parameters and certain ways you got to be. And also the kind of nonsense in order to get the audio book, uploaded. And then you got to have software you can go in and tweak it and do all this other kind of stuff with. That's kind of the easy part. The thing is I think my first book is like, and it goes by words, right? Like if you wanted someone to do it like an actor, actress, and they charge like $50 to $100 per 100 words, which is ridiculous. It's like, I mean, I think my first book was like 35,000 something words or something. It's like 117 pages. And you know how much, man, that's a lot of money to put down for someone else to do it. Now you can do it yourself. Like I said, there's just, it's time. And that's why I understand why they charge so much for that. I'm not going to pay somebody to do that shit. It's not that I'm cheap. It's just, you're going to make rich off me. And I have no guarantees that my book is going to sell, but you're going to get paid. I don't disagree with that. And if people decide to do that, hey, there is nothing wrong with it. Do what you got to do, man. If you're that confident in your book to make it an audio book and it's going to sell like that, then hey, go for it. Man, I'm doing all kinds of adjustments today. This shit's just like, this piece of shit. Let me do my camera because it's just, yeah. There we go. Just trying to hurt my feelings and shit for a minute. Come on, let's auto adjust. Let me get some contacts. I'm tired of wearing these glasses. Can't see shit. So there is that option. And there's AI. And AI, here's the thing when I talk about time. If you're willing to invest that much time into it, and hey, maybe one day I will, but it costs you money to do it faster. And everybody's about fast, especially me. I don't really have I don't really have a whole lot of patience. I just don't. And, that's just something I'm working on. But going through different types of AI software, there's some that actually sounds like a real person. And some people don't really care if it sounds kind of robotish or whatever. They're just more concerned about being able to listen to the story because not everybody has time to sit there and read. They rather listen. Back in the day, like Princess Bride, like the book was great, but I like the movie better. But some books are better than the movie because of all the detail that's in there. But if you realize when you start being an author, I don't know if I can call myself an author or not, but when you get in there, you see the fine details that you don't notice in a movie because you're just used to seeing it. But those fine details is what's detailed in a book in order for you to imagine that character or that environment or the situation and whatnot, right? So to me, I like that part of doing a book, and that's where AI kind of helped me out, is to give me more of that realistic environment and realistic things about the character. I mean, I can sit there and talk about how the character looks or the emotions that they're portraying or actions that they're taking. And that's great and all, but AI is where, yeah, I did, I guess, cheat in that aspect, but in all actuality, it's still your story. It's still what you're putting into it. So again, about the audio part is, if you want it where it's a little bit cheaper, you're not spending a ton of money. It's just, you can only do so many minutes or words again per what you're wanting to do. So like say my first book was like 35,000 words. It'd take me like 2 years to turn that into an audiobook if I did it cheaply. There might be some out there that I kind of stopped researching after a while, but you get what I'm saying. And the ones that where you can do it faster, they limit you. Like you get so many words per 30 days and you're spending like $150 and you're giving me like, not per day, sorry, per month. So it's like 8,000 words per month. Again, you're paying over $100 something to do this, and you're inputting it in there, and it only lets you do section by section by section. Still, you got a 35,000 word book. It's still going to take you a hot minute, and you're paying $100 a month for this, right? There's some that's like $20 a month, but then it's still going to take a hot minute because you don't get 8,000 words a month. People still do it. I mean, if you got 2 or 3 books in the thing and I don't know. Me, I thought about just reading the book myself, but it's hard for me to put emotion into that. And that's what you're paying for and even in the AI, you got to tweak it to where it shows the type of emotions within each setting, because the AI kind of reads off of it because some of the words, but there's ways that you can put in. There's certain characters that you put in there in order to give the emotion for the AI. So there's still work that you got to do with anything. So it's definitely a learning curve whenever you do it. I mean, it's easy to become an author, and I did it all for free, except time. Well, I pay for ChatGPT, but I don't use it just for writing books and stuff like that. I do it for researching and help me out with a lot of different things in life. Not my job, of course, because we have to use AI at our job. We actually teach AI at our job. I'm not going to get into that, but just some things that you try to do on the side to make that little extra money, or in my case, it's more of it helps me mentally with a lot of stuff. It calms me down. Like these podcasts calm me down. I haven't done them in a hot minute because when I've been working on books, I'm still working on getting another job, not a second job, but another gig. So I've been interviewing and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of up in the air with today's society being technical engineer. It's with AI and everything coming out. It's really hard, and everybody out there knows the whole workforce right now of recruiters and companies ghosting, putting ghost jobs up, or they're wanting that perfect candidate that's got all these skills and they want to pay them like bottom dollar. And you're just not going to get that if like I got literally like 23, 24 years in IT, and I've done so many different aspects of the IT job. Except writing language or writing code. My mind just doesn't work like that. I'm a hardware guy or a break fix guy, and I don't know. It's a different society within IT. When you got your programmers are more intro type folks, and then there's me. I'm an outro kind of guy. I like outrovert or whatever you call it, introvert, outrovert. I like talking to people, and programmers they make a grip of money, but I know my wife and I was talking the other day about passions and things we wanted to do. And you see people out there, like I watch these YouTube videos and I see young folks that are doing things that I wish I could do, that I've kind of done before, but on a smaller scale. Like I love building cars. It's an art form for me. I mean, body work, paint, engine, modifying, You name it. I love doing it, but you got to have the space and the tools and the time to do it. And I don't have any of those things. Moving out here, that's, kind of one of the reasons why we moved out here, thinking I could build a shop and everything, but it's just not feasible with the current job. Corporations don't really, I'm not going to be negative about it, but corporations just don't really care about the little people. They'll screw you over, and it's just like, well, get another job because I can throw a rock and hit 10 people that'll take your job for less than you're making. When they know people like us is the one who helped build that company up, but that's just society and life. I used to be angry about it, but I'm not angry. It's just like, all right, I get it, whatever. You're a cheap ass, and that's why you're a billionaire, and I'm not. You have no conscience, and I do. But my wife and I was talking about it, and it's not that I completely gave up on it, but there's just some things you got to sacrifice. Like my wife's trying to write a book, and it's really hard for her. There's some things that she's got going on with some stuff that happened in her past, and it's not me to talk about. But, it emotionally hits you whenever you're doing that. So those of you that are trying to write a book, just if it's a biography or a documentary of what you've seen or what you witnessed or what you went through, you're going to relive that because you want to get every detail. So it's mentally draining. She took a break from it. That's one of the things she wanted to do. She wanted to write. She also wanted to be a photographer. She also wants to travel. Those things are actually more feasible than what my passion is. Excuse me. So sometimes you gotta sacrifice those passions and just live, and that's just society right now. I love my wife. She teaches me patience. I'm not very good at it. I'm trying to get better at it. She tries to help me keep my emotions in check about my current job. It's just some of the stuff I do. It's just, they do. It's just kind of like, I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't really get it. And I'm, at that time I thought it was just me, but there's others that are out there. When you see someone kind of high up on your food chain of your echelon of how things roll downhill and they start putting open to work on LinkedIn, you're like, oh, man, shit's about to get real. And you got those people looking for another job. A lot of people in my department are, they're just not voicing it. And that's due to a lot of different things. It's a lot of moving parts in that. But me, yeah, I'll still give 110% of my job. That's just how I always am, except they're not getting 110% of me. They're just getting 100% of my work ethic, because it's not the customer's fault that, our company is just the way it is. So I'm always going to give 110%. And my wife knows it too. She knows that's just how I was raised. That's how we were raised. You always give your all, and with giving your all, you're supposed to get these rewards, and it gets to a point where you don't even care about the rewards anymore. It's just, it makes you feel good at the end of the day. Me, it's just, I'm going through the motions. I'm like a robot at work. I just do my job and that's it. Don't ask any questions. Don't say nothing. Stay off everybody's radar. Keep your head down. Do what you got to do until the next role comes. So, did a couple of interviews at a job at a company, and I'm not going to say the company or anything like that, or what the role is, but I've done two. I finished the technical. I did the intro, and now I'm just waiting on the last interview to come through. And hopefully if I get that, that's going to change our lives. We're going to move from here, which we've been trying to move for a hot minute, but the economy and my credit just went to crap. Student loans started knocking at the door like at the wrong time. They're like, hey, buddy, you still owe stuff back from 2004, back from 2009. It's like, damn, man, federal people want their money. I didn't even get the education. I'm not going to go into that, but I didn't even get a chance to finish all my crap. ITT was one of them. just because I was there a year before they filed all that stuff and it closed down, I can't delete the debt, which is fucking stupid. I didn't get the opportunity to finish all, you know, but it is what it is. So now I'm back on a payment plan to get that up and rolling. That way, I think July is whenever our bankruptcy is 2 year mark to where we can get another VA loan. But the problem with that is I still don't make a whole lot of money. I haven't moved up very much since we got this house as far as pay. And credit sucks because we had to file bankruptcy. So trying to build credit like the house, you know, the mortgage people on the house, they just basically, there's between the lawyer and them and everything, basically we can just walk away from this house. We won't get a dime, but it wouldn't go on our credit. But that money of selling this house, I mean, we put 8 years into this house, fixing it up, fixing up the property, doing all sorts of stuff. We need to get something out of it to help us move forward once we're able to, you know, get a job that's closer to the city or in a different location and things like that. So we got that in the works, kind of going down. I had a good buddy of mine that reached out to me about this gig that used to work where I work at now. Really cool guy. Of course, they screwed him over pretty bad. You know, as back then it's like, oh, you get these certifications, you'll get a promotion. And he had more certs than everybody. And he kind of spoke up, which he wasn't that kind of person that just speaks up. You know, he kind of keeps himself, very hard worker, really cool guy. And we had this meeting, this team meeting, and he just, you know, one of the managers that's all about hearing himself talk and soapboxing all the time. They say, if you got this amount of certs, then, you know, then that's how you get promoted. And he spoke up and he's like, well, I got 11 standard industry certs. How come I'm not being promoted? Captain Soapbox was all like, blah, 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 you know. He couldn't even say shit because everybody knows how many certs this guy has. You know, so it's like they talk a good game about doing this and doing that, and it's just basically the company looks good when you have all these certifications. So they can go to the customer and the client and say, man, so we got these engineers have all these certs. They know what they're doing. You can trust us and blah, blah, blah to support your product, you know, blah, blah, blah. But then we don't get that recognition, you know, or they'll say, congratulate so-and-so for getting the certification. Yay. That's it. No promotion, no raise, even though they say that's what some of it's based off of. Yeah, that's bullshit. I got certifications and I'm so low on the totem pole. And there's people that are way up here making way more than me, don't even have half the crap I got. It just doesn't make sense. But it's all about who you know. It's not about what you know. But this gentleman reached out to me a little while back and he was like, hey, man. And so his company's hiring for this role. And he goes, I know you can do this role. He was like, you can do this role with your eyes closed. And they're paying almost double what I'm making now. And of course, me, I was that person. I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. You know, my wife's always trying to push me to try to find a different job because her and I both know this job is just a dead end for me. And it's a dead end for us. And so I was like, yeah, sure, man. So, he asked for my resume and I used, again, people talk about, Chat GPT, they're cheating. No, it's all your crap. Like I put my resume in there for the ATS standard, which a lot of companies won't even, if you're not in that standard, they're not even going to look at your crap. That's just, it's not like it is before when you had a stack of resumes. People was going to go through there one by one. No, they don't do that shit no more. No. So you put your stuff out there to get, the ATS, and all I did was I was just put it in Chat GPT, and this is, my resume, and I put in there, put this in ATS format for this type of role. And it basically takes all your stuff that you've done in your history, which my history goes way back. So I only did like 12 years, and it just put it exactly for that. So I mean, I got the interview, really quick. And the first interview was talent. I can never say that word. Talent acquisition. It's just an internal recruiter, basically. And I had a pre-screen with him, and he said, "Man, you got the skill set for this," and blah blah blah. The next one was a tech interview. Tech interview is really hard. It wasn't hard, but normally it is. Whenever you're in IT, you can go places where you got a panel of like 5 to 7 people that are just slamming you with all these questions and everything and all this other stuff. And situational, what if this or what if that? And can you describe what this is? What does this stand for? What purpose does this do in this? Or, what's the OSI table? All this other kind of dumb shit. And they want to know all your skills, knowing that you never use any of that crap in the job. You just don't. They just want to see. It's about measuring, if you know what I mean. I don't do good in those interviews because I start getting pissed off because there's some people that don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're asking me something, and it's happened to me before. And it's not saying I know everything, but if I don't know something, I'm that type of person of like, I don't know. If I've never done it before, I'm not going to fake it. I don't know, but I'm willing to learn it. I'd like to know more about that. So, not going down that rabbit hole, but so I ended up doing the tech interview with this gentleman, and he was just, it's probably the best interview I had in my entire life. And we had a lot in common. We both like dragons and stuff like that, and both of us are ex-military, and it flowed good. And the way he did the interview was just awesome. Basically we just had a conversation for like 30, 40 minutes, getting to know each other, on that field and talking experience about different stuff. And it's like, if you're in the military and you talk to someone else, it's like, say I was in the Army for 10 years, right? And you have another gentleman that you talk to that said they was in the military. There's just certain things that you can say and pick up on where that person was actually in the military. That's why, you get people that are stolen valor. There's things that aren't public. Unless you've been in the military, I mean, I guess someone could have told you, but if there's just certain things that you just know, especially if you were, stationed in the same, places, you just know. There's just aspects of the area, aspects of the BS, or aspects of the fun stuff, or, a bar or a club, or, a section of it, or being in the field all the time, oh man. Like Korea. If you've been to Korea, you can name a lot of things in Korea that people just normally wouldn't know because it's just an inside joke to people that's been there. So that's basically how he kind of did the interview to get to know my skill set. And I like that because it was comfortable. It was just, it wasn't fake. It wasn't just, another guy across the table just reading off a piece of paper asking me questions, which 9 times out of 10, they don't normally know the answer to it. The only reason they know the answer is because it's on their piece of paper. No, this interview was just smooth. We laughed. It was great. It was comfortable. And I picked up on how he was interviewing me on the tech side when we talked about certain things, like servers and stuff, like replacing DIMMs. We both did the thumb things because you do a lot of DIMMs, memory sticks inside of a server. There's not like, a computer where you're just popping like 4 of them in, or at most maybe 8. No, you're popping in an ass ton. And they're hard to get to, or you got to stick your fingers down in there. I mean, there's tools you can use it, but if you're old school, we used our thumbs, and we both kind of did, there's just things that So at the end of the interview, he was just like, and this was for, a decent level, but he was like, look, he goes, you have a ton of experience. And he goes, so there's good news and bad news about that, or a good thing and a bad thing about that. He's like, the good thing is I think you're very skilled. He goes, the bad thing is you're overqualified for this role. And I just kind of sat back and I was just like, all right. And I kind of felt that emotion kind of popping up in me. Excuse me, take a drink here. I normally don't say that. Should be drinking a freaking Monster, but coffee's good. And I've had that, I've had that before. Like I interviewed for VMware like 5 times, and I got more certs and invested in it than the person's giving me the interview. And that's the problem. I had a manager call me back that was on an interview for VMware, and this was in Bloomberg, Colorado, and I think the pay was like 150, 160K, right? And cost of living there is a lot more than here in Texas, and I did the interview, and the one thing I really didn't know was just a lot about Linux. I mean, I do, but I don't. I'm that kind of person. I'm hands-on. If I'm not doing it, which I'm trying to get better at it, I got my lab and stuff set up back there and doing some other things, and I have to do it in order to learn it. I can't watch somebody do it. I have to be able to get in there and do what I got to do in order to learn it. I can't sit back and watch I mean, I can watch videos and learn from it, but it's kind of slow, because one, I hate typing. I've been in IT for a hot minute. I can type fast if I want to, but as soon as I realize I'm doing it, I'm like, shit, I fucked up. So the manager calls me after the interview, and I already knew I didn't get the job because you just kind of, the verbiage, it's just like, all right, well, we still have a lot of candidates that we're looking at. And all that. At that moment, you're not getting that job. When they start talking about other candidates, that just means that they're going to blow you off. I mean, if someone else had it to where they ended up getting a job after that, hey, kudos for you. But my experience, I've had a ton of interviews in my life. When those words come out your mouth, you already know you're not getting that job. So that manager of that VMware role, and it was a senior design role, and I have a VCAP, which is basically what that is. And he calls me back. It's just him. And he was like, look, man, you're just too overqualified for this role. And he gives me the 3. I call it the 3. You're overqualified for this role. You're going to get bored. We can't pay you enough. Okay. Those are the 3 mains. And of course, I try to plead my side of it. And I'm just like, well, there's things that if I'm overqualified, there's things that I didn't even know, like the Linux side. And I'm really interested in learning that because I'm a hands-on person and I'm willing to do that. So I'm doing a rebuttal on everything he said and throwing my side up in there, right? And I was like, so one is I'm not going to get bored because I don't know every aspect of it. There's still a whole lot that I can learn. So that takes care of 2. Overqualified, yeah, I might be overqualified in some aspects, but there's a lot of it that I didn't know, right? And I would get bored because I'm actually learning something, which I told them that I enjoy learning something and I'm very teachable. And that's why I'm looking outside of my current role is to up my skill set to be a better engineer. So when you give all those things, in another person's mind, like if I was given the interview, I'd be like, okay, so he's eager to learn. He's teachable. He's got some really good skills. He's been in his same company for a hot minute, so we know he's just not going to learn and run. Now it comes down to pay. Let's just say it was 160K. That's more than double what I make right now. So it's like 6 figures. And I told the guy, I was like, look, man, I'm going to be honest with you. I make half that, if even, maybe a little less than half that. So you can't afford me. Let's meet in the middle. Put me at like 120. Oh, we just don't think you're just overqualified. And at the moment, it makes you, it knocks your confidence down, and then it knocks it up. It knocks it down. It's like a roller coaster of emotion of, and that's the thing I explain to my wife about some things, and she knows. She hears it a million times. I'm bad about that. It's like my current role in my company. Man, you're a really good engineer. Man, you do a lot. You do this, to do that. You're a rock star, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If I'm all this, then how come I'm still in the same position? How come I'm not moving up? How come they're not giving me a freaking raise? Am I capped out? Yeah. So all that stuff is frustrating. But with this one role, and like, it's different than like other roles. Other roles, I was real excited because I don't chase money, but there's a point in your life where you have to. If there's things that you want to do, like my wife and I, we do want to travel, you know. But if I'm stuck doing this job where I'm wearing 6 hats and getting paid for, like, there's people at McDonald's that make more money than I do, you know. It's just it wears you down, you know. So you gotta get out there. You gotta do your things, you know. Like my wife, I love her to death for that. She pushes me out there. She's like, you just gotta go, man. You just, even if you feel you ain't qualified, you never know. Put it out there. So back to the gentleman that did the tech interview at this one company, and he was just like, so the good news is, man, you're really qualified. You have your skill set is strong. Like, you've got a lot of knowledge of what we need, but you're overqualified for the role that you're applying for. So I kind of gave him the gist of, you know, VMware and stuff like that. And he didn't know what a VCAP was because that's not his area of expertise or whatever. And I just told him, I was like, just think of it this way. It's basically the CCIE of Cisco. Then he got it. He was like, oh, shit. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, but I'm going to, because they have to pass you through, you know, and either it stops there or he passes you through to the next level, right? Or the next interview. And he was like, I'm going to go ahead and pass you through, but I'm going to put you in as I'm going to put you in as a lead. He goes, because I know that you can do a lead job. Now, the difference between the role that I was looking for, which is, you know, an engineer versus a tech lead, there's about 30, 40,000 pay difference. Now you're going from hourly to salary, right? Only job I ever was that was salary was the military. Yeah, and they work the shit out your ass. I mean, don't let that mess up on a base, man, because you give up your weekends. You're going to be doing it 16, 17-hour days and shit. So I was like, all right, cool, man. I'm all right with that. Normally, and I did for the first 2 days. Now, this has been over a week. And my buddy that put me in for this job, he was my referral or whatever, and his took all of a week. And he got a verbal offer. I'm going on 2 weeks. So the first 2 days after that tech interview, because according to him, he's like, you'll have your tech interview because this is what happened to me. And he's got a lot of skill, but also I've been in it a hot minute, you know, so I'm kind of at his level, maybe a little bit more. I think we're pretty much the same, whatever. I'm not going to do that to him. He's got some really good skill. And it went fast for him. Like, literally in 3 days, he had a verbal offer. So I got stressed. This happened on like a Wednesday, the tech interview. And then Thursday and Friday, and this was not last Thursday and Friday, but the last Thursday and Friday back, or Wednesday back, I was like stressed for 2 days, you know, because I really want out of this role that I'm in. But also the fact that it can change my wife and I's life. You know, it can put us closer. I'm 51 years old. You know, I don't want to work and be like, okay, now you're 60 years old and you're where you need to be at. And then we can only travel for a few years, you know, or get to do our passion for like 1 or 2 years. And then, you know, I'm too old to do it. A lot of people's like, oh, you know, there's people that's, you know, in their 70s and 80s that are doing that. Happy for them. Them fuckers are rich. You know, they've, and that's an excuse for me. It's bullshit. But you look at everything within that of how, and it gets your hopes up. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it was a bad thing. It used to be a bad thing for me. Like the VMware roles, man, that would change our lives. And I love doing it. Never got it because I kept getting my hopes up. And then you come crashing down whenever you get that one generic bullshit email that comes to you. Oh, thank you for your time and everything. Although we feel that you're a very solid engineer and you're very skilled, we went ahead and gave it to somebody else. Now, we're going to move on with someone else, but we'll keep you in mind. Yeah, no, you won't. I had a company like that would want me. It was funny. I'll tell you exactly what it was. Ring Central. These motherfuckers. So this was probably about 4 years ago. Ring Central hit me up, and it was for a level 2 role. And I think it was, of course, they don't tell you the pay and everything like that. I got something hanging off my shit. They don't tell you the pay up front. So I do the interview and stuff like that. They get my resume, and I do the interview. And of course, I rock the interview. And I kind of didn't think nothing of it because I already knew I was overqualified. And they basically said that. They're just like, oh, you're really overqualified for this position and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I always say thank you for your time because I know their time is precious, just like I want them to know that my time is precious. But the interview was great. And I just told them, I was like, hey, thank you for your time. I didn't think nothing of it. So I get a call like 3 days later, and this is like the director over that department. And she hits me up. And she's like, hey, shoots me an email. Can we have a conversation? I'm like, shit, yeah, come on. She was like, I do apologize about that. She goes, it seems like, if it feels that they kind of just pass you up and everything like that. She goes, but I reviewed your resume and you were a rock star. She's like, I don't know why they didn't push you forward to the next interview and all this other kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I tell my wife about it and she's like, hey, well, that's great. Yeah. So the first role was for a tech 2, and I think it was like $60K a year. I make more than that. And I had to drive to Dallas. And I was 100% remote making more than that. And I told her, I was like, look, she basically offered me the job. And I was like, sorry, can't take it. And she was like, well, what would it take? And I'm like, this number right here. I was like, and she was like, And I was like, okay, you got to understand. I live 2.5 hours one way from Dallas. You want me to be in there 5 days a week. Okay. So you're taking 5 hours of my day. You're cutting me 30 grand from what I'm making now. I work comfortably from my home, fully remote. I'm not spending any gas. So you got to help me out. You got to pay me more because even though I'm 30,000 more, I'm 100% remote. So you might as well add another 10 grand to that of how much, 15 grand of maintenance of the vehicle, driving in, dealing with the crap, taking more of my time. 5 hours of my day is driving. And she was like, let me put you in for this other position. It's a whole lot more. I'm like, great. She's like, I really think you'll do good. I think we need you in this company. I'm like, man, yeah, it feels great. It's awesome. So I do the interview for the higher role. Everybody's at least 20, 25 years younger than me. Even the guy that was interviewing me. And I already knew I was going to get that role. They're just like, they're millennials. And I went through the whole thing and he was like, man, I think you'd be great for this role. Awesome. 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by, nothing. So I reach out to that IT director and I'm like, hey, Miss Lady. An interview and everybody was pushing this so quickly to get this done and I haven't got a response back. And she was like, you didn't get a response? She goes, they told me that you'd be perfect for the role. And I'm like, no. Then she ghosted me. I think it was like a month, 2 months later, I got an email stating that they decided to go with somebody else. That's just kind of how it is. And it pissed me off. But I ended up getting over it because, like I said, my wife's my rock. She was like, look, baby, it just wasn't meant to be. And I've started getting that lately to where you can feel how it's going to go with roles and stuff like that and the interviews. And I guess some of it might be negative, but it's just kind of an intuition that you're like, okay, I'm not going to get this role. It's not that I was lacking confidence. It's just how the interview went and how, when you're sitting there, like, I'll give you another example real quick. So where I live at the independent school district here, they had a role that was open and I went there to go interview for it. Right. And of course they had my resume and all that stuff. And the IT director was sitting there talking to me and he had his number 2 sitting next to him. And he was looking at my resume while the IT director was, asking me questions and stuff like that. And, his number two is just shaking his head, looking at my resume and stuff. And the guy asked me, he was like, so, where you work at and what's your pay range and stuff. And I told him, and he was like, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to afford you. And then the number two guy was there. He's like, you got more skill than I got. And he goes, and I've been here for a hot minute. And he was like, yeah, you're too overqualified. I'm like, okay, this is like 40 grand less than I was making. And I already knew I was going to get it. So you just keep rolling on, going on the next thing, and you get that intuition. Even though he hit me up like 2 months later, he's like, is there any way possible that maybe you can, consider this role? And I was like, well, you know what I make now? I was like, so you want me to cut half of what I'm making? I'm barely making it on what I bring home now. Not only that, I'm going to have to drive in. You got to help me out. I'll do a lateral. No. He's like, man, we just can't afford that. And I'm like, all right, man. Because basically what they want to do is they want someone that's got all this skill. And I'm not saying I'm all that in a bag of Doritos, man, but somebody that's got all these skills, all these certifications, and it looks good for them. But they don't want to pay you what you're worth. I had to learn what my worth was. I know how much I'm worth. I know my skill set. I know what I can do. My main thing that they are, which a lot of companies don't consider, is integrity. They say that that's one of their core values is integrity, but then some lying motherfuckers. It's not. Because y'all some shady motherfuckers. Anyway. So I kind of told this gentleman that I did that tech interview with this other role. And I was like, hey, man. I was like, hey, I totally get that. And I just told him, I was like, man, I enjoyed talking to you. I was like, I even told him straight, I was like, I've been in a lot of interviews, and this is probably the best interview I've had in my entire life. Whether it goes anywhere or not. I was like, because I enjoyed the time, and I appreciate your time for it. I was like, but there was no stress. And I knew how you kind of did it halfway into the interview, how you can figure out that what I knew what to do, or what my skill set was, rather, right? And he was like, you caught that. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, but it was awesome. And he was just like, he goes, I really think you're going to be, good at this company. He goes, I'm going to put you in for a higher role. He goes, so it's not up to me. All I can do is give my recommendation of what I think. He goes, I'm doing the tech. He goes, your next one is more like the, what would you do in this situation? Why are you leaving your current role? Give me an instance to where, you messed up, and how did you recover, and what did you learn from, those questions, which are easy because, I've had just about any question they can ask me, the what ifs I've had happen in my current role. I can give you a ton of examples, right? So I'm like, all right, man. And I never had a feeling, or it's been a while. Let me take that back. It's been a while since I had that feeling of not really hope, but like, I might actually get this role. It feels really good. But 2 days after that interview, it's like in my mind, I still had that, you set that expectation, and I set my own expectation, which I shouldn't have done, of this gentleman that helped me out, that used to work with me, and his buddy got in same way as him with way less experience, not in the role that I'm going for. They're trying to push me on, but a little bit lower role. But 3 days he had a verbal. Now, the thing is the reason why this is so important to me is, one, is we have to relocate to this location. Okay. Can't do a VA loan right now because we have to wait till July 5th. Just you have to be 2 years out for a VA loan, and that's our 2-year mark. 2, dealing with freaking student loans just knocked my credit score like 110 points down. Oof. And the fact that we have 4 big dogs, well, 2 big dogs now, and 2 little dogs. I don't know. They're little to us, but a lot of people say they're big. They're whatever. We got extra large breed and large breed, right? And then we got to move this distance away. We got to find a place that we can rent that takes 4 dogs, because I'm sorry, we're not getting rid of our dogs. Or I just have to go down there and only come home on the weekends until we can get everything squared away. That's not ideal for my wife and I. This place that if I end up getting this role, you go to another state for a month for training. And that's going to be bad enough. Like my wife, we'll get the in-laws in to see if they can watch her dogs for a while, and someone else watch dog for a couple of weeks. That way she can stay with me. She's never been to this place, you know, she's never been there, and I want her there with me because you got to think, my wife and I, we're around each other 24/7. I mean, we're attached at the hip, and there's just a lot of things that go on with that, and we can't plan, and we did that when we first did, and I think everybody kind of does that. When we first got the news of, he said, yeah, I'm going to push you through this through the technical review. It's like, oh shoot, I'm probably going to get this job, hopefully. So we started looking in places and looking at rent houses and all this other kind of shit. And it's just like, shit, this area. And of course the place wants you max 50 miles out. You might get away with like 60 miles or something like that. And my wife wants to keep it to where I'm not driving 2 hours. We're just going to be in the same boat, different location, different ocean, right? So saying about 50 miles out, that's, a 45-hour drive. But then around that circumference of that radius of it, there just ain't shit. These people have a 1,300 square foot house and it's like $2,000 to rent for a 1,300 square foot house. The house looks like shit. So we have to plan that. Now, my wife is good at all that good stuff or whatever, but we have to plan all this out because, they give you a relocation, which it's not a whole lot of money. I mean, it's actually pretty decent. But if you were having someone move you, that money will go like right then. We're going to move ourselves, right? But then you got to understand is we got 4 big dogs. So we got the 2 Great Danes, and then we got the 2 Weimaraner. And this place is 5 or 6 hours away, one way. So there's that. There's just a lot of moving parts. And then if I get this role, the first month is remote stuff. You get all your paperwork done, your laptop and all this other BS out the way, and all these training videos and crap you got to watch, and that's after, once you get your verbal offer, then they do a background check, which I know I'll pass my background check. Then that usually takes a week or two. It just really depends. Like my buddy, he's actually from another country. He's got a citizenship here, but his was like in 24 hours. He got his back. I don't know if mine's going to be like that. I don't know. So then you get that, and then you get your written offer and paper to where you sign it. Once you get that, then you're now hired on. That's our starting point. Now we can pre-gather once we get the verbal, and I agreed to the verbal. Then we can take a trip down to this area and see what all they got. I have to take PTO off from my current job, which I always have a ton left because I don't know why. But anyway, then you got to do that. So once you get the laptop and you got to start doing all this paperwork and stuff, that's when it's real. That's when the time has to divide. I got to stop working at my current job because I can't do both. I mean, I probably could, but I'm not going to because, I got too much shit we got to do if we're going to move. So we got that. It takes a month to get that done according to my buddy, right? You get your phone and all this other kind of dumb shit. And the training, he says, it's like 100 something videos. So it takes you a hot minute. It takes you about a month. And that's the time they give you for that, right? And then they fly you somewhere for the next month for on-site training at a training facility. And then you're gone for another month, right? So I'll be out of state. I won't be here helping looking for houses and shit. So technically you only got 2 months to find something. Not even 2 months, 1 month if you want to look at it. Not a lot of time. But we can make it work. We can get it figured out. So I know this is kind of an all over the place podcast / YouTube video / whatever you want to call it. But the moral of the story is no matter what you do, there's I've tried to do a lot of different things, and I try to show y'all that how you can do it for cheap or almost free, but you get what you pay for. You can put a lot of thought into something. You see these YouTube videos, it's like man. Uh, oh, this is how you get rich with this. Use AI to do that. This is what I did. This is what, you know, you want to get more viewers. You want to get this and blah, blah, blah. Look how successful I am. Like, there's a guy there that's like, you know, Amazon pays me $36,000 a month. Motherfucker. If you're making $36,000 a month, why are you doing YouTube videos still? It wasn't even about doing YouTube. You're trying to help other people out. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. If I make $36,000 a month, I'm not going to have to waste my time on YouTube to get more people to make $36,000 a month. That's when you're starting to get greedy. A lot of those people, I'm just letting y'all know out there on YouTube. Y'all have watched my YouTubes and you listen to my podcast. I don't ask anything. I don't ask for donations. Nothing. Because I do it for me. Not for money, but to help my mental state. These people are doing it for money. It's like, motherfucker, you're greedy. If you're making that much money, why in the hell am I going to watch your video to give you more money? Oh, so you can make more money? No, because you're bullshitting. Because if you made that money, you wouldn't be doing YouTube videos still. Now, if that was your job to only do YouTube, yeah, I guess I can understand that. Or you enjoy doing it, I can understand that. You know, so I'll take a little bit of that back. I'm sorry, $36,000 a month. You know how much money that is? Taxes on that motherfucker got to be brutal. But anyway, it's been a hot minute since I've talked to y'all. Since I've done a podcast, YouTube podcast, whatever. Still alive. Things are going great. Still staying positive. You know, I have my days. You know, the mental struggle is still there. But, you know, my biggest thing is having faith. You know, I always talk about how my wife helps me out a lot. And she's just like, everything happens for a reason. It's like my sister-in-law. I forgot what the hell this thing's called. That's some kind of crystal or whatever. But every day I hold this thing, even through my interviews, I hold this thing, and it actually helps me out, whether it's placebo or whatever the fact is. But it's all about being calm, having faith. And the thing that I told my wife is, it's not going to be because of me I don't get this job, that I messed up, that I didn't give it my all. It's going to be if they want to hire me or not. You know, and it's the thing is, you can dumb your resume down. But the thing is when you dumb your resume down, you're not getting what you're worth. You know, it's like you got to take a hit on pay just to get another role. And then it's the same cycle that goes over. You know, it's like it's hard to dumb your resume down, because when you talk to somebody who actually knows what the hell's going on and they start talking to you, they're going to know. They're like, okay, this motherfucker dumbed his resume down just to get this role. And then you got to look at the pay. The pay is like way less. Like for the role that I got for what I do, like I'm way underpaid. Like I should be making more than double than what I'm making. But then it's a catch-22 that you try to find what you think you're worth, and these people are going to be cheap, and they're going to be like, psh, I want somebody that can do 6 people's job, and I want to pay you half of what you're asking for. Because that's how they continue to get rich. And it looks good. They get bonuses off that. It's like, look, man, this position was like for $160K, but man, we got them for $120. Look how much money we sold. We might be able to put that on getting another engineer. But we're going to make him do quadruple the work. I mean, I don't mind doing quadruple the work if you're going to pay me. Like, I don't make 6 figures. Even if you make, like, if you make over, like I always used to say, I was like, you know I made it whenever I make $100,000 a year. Ain't doing that. Not there yet. But it's funny how that works, because if I make $100K, it's just basically as if I'm making $60K in today's economy. Eggs went up again. Gas went up again. Milk up again. You know, it's a never-ending, you know, cycle of BS that you go through. And the only thing to do is, like my wife says, you just gotta have faith and stay positive. We do the best we can. Like I love my wife so much. You know, she gets me through a lot of hard stuff. I put her through a lot of shit, though. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a very fortunate that, you know, she ain't left my ass some of the shit I've done. Nothing bad, nothing cheat or nothing. I would never do that like that. But just my personality, right? But she's my rock. And just hope that this role goes through, and I'm not putting all my eggs in the same basket. It's just I haven't thought about this type of role in a very long time, and I enjoy this role. It's just back then you don't get paid that much to do it. You're basically a grunt in this role, and I enjoy kind of the grunt work. I like to physically be there and do stuff. But now at a higher tier, you can make some pretty good money. And I already have the knowledge. I always, I've time and grade. I've done it. Break fix. I've done my whole career, 23 years in IT. I've done break fix in some form or fashion. From software to laptop to desktop, server, you name it. I've done it. Different operating systems, Mac, Linux, Windows. Data recovery, data destruction. Oh man, I've done a ton of it. So all I'm doing is keep my faith. I just want to reach out to you guys and kind of let you know everything's going smooth here. Well, I wouldn't say smooth, but it's going. We're still here. I took a break. I'm always going to try to make some videos when I can, and I do it hopefully to help people out that is going through a similar situation. It's just like there's people that's worse off than I am that's probably doing better than we are as far as mentally and stuff like that. So it's a tricky slope, but I just hope everybody's doing well. Everybody's taking care of their family. Everybody's doing the best they can with today's economy and what's going on out there. And like I said, it's easy to get a hold of me within this or the Instagram. I'm down to talk to anybody. And it's not that I'm in your situation. Sometimes it's good to talk to a stranger, just to, let a few things off your chest, vent a little bit, brainstorm with that person, or brainstorm with me, maybe I can help you out. Maybe you can help me out. There's just so many things. I'm trying to get like a community going to where we can help each other out to kind of grow a little bit more in life, to take some of that stress off your back. Like, taking big burdens off your chest or off your shoulders, of stress of, like I'm a sole provider. I love being a sole provider. Can my wife work? Yeah, but not around where we live at, because I'm not going to have my wife working at a dollar store or shit making nothing. And she can't physically lift that much. So, and there's things that she does that she enjoys doing that she makes a little bit of money out of. So, it works out. But those of you that's in the same boat, hey, whether it's man or female, or whatever, and you're the sole provider, kudos to you, man, or girl, or lady, woman. Keep your heads up. I'm doing the best I can with what I got to work with, and I know you guys are too. But if you ever want a conversation, hit me up. That's why I do this. The fact that I get joy of helping people out. I get joy of getting to know other people. You brainstorm with a few people, and it doesn't cost you anything. I'll never ask you for any money. Well, I got like 7 subscribers, and all of them I know. You don't see me pushing out there, hey, hit the like button. Hey, subscribe. No, you don't even have to subscribe. Just hit me up and have a conversation. It's free. Just take some time out. Shoot me an IM. But again, as always, thank you everybody for your time. If you did listen to this podcast, The Daily Dirty, and praying for everybody. Hope you throw prayers out my way, and hopes I can get out of my current situation with this role. And I'll try to put another one out, a couple out. And if I do get this role, you guys will know. I'll let you know, So, but again, thank you for your time. Peace out. Be safe.